So good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you for this session. This session is presented by Dr. Nitin Verma, who is a professor in Computer Science Department of Chitkara University. So now we have our coordinator, Dr. E. Basuraj. He will brief about Dr. Nitin Verma to our gathering. Over to Dr. E. Basuraj, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Dr. Nitin Verma, sir. Good afternoon, all participants. I welcome Dr. Nitin Verma, sir, to this session. I feel privileged to introduce Dr. Nitin Verma. We'll be presenting his session on how to create blue oceans, creating blue oceans. I'm happy to introduce Dr. Nitin Verma, sir, to all of you. Dr. Nitin Verma specializes in analytics, big data, and artificial intelligence with a PhD from Indian Institute of Management, Ranchi. Dr. Nitin Verma is a BTech holder from National Institute of Technology, Kurukshetra, there 1994, and MBA from PGDBM, SPJIMR, Mumbai, and has predominantly having industrial experience, including a decade in the US in IT industry. And he had worked on projects for a number of Fortune 500 organizations on cutting edge technologies used in smart cities such as smart transportation, SAP, mobile CRMS, and such for projects of organizations like IBM, SAP, Oracle, among others. Dr. Nitin Verma is ex-PMP PMI Six Sigma Green Belt holder and NET qualified. Dr. Nitin is just starting up. Till recently, he was a professor at Chitkara University and also deploys as a mentor of change for the Niti Aayog, Government of India. Dr. Nitin has published articles and case studies and has won national and international awards for research and innovation. We are really very lucky to have Dr. Nitin Verma, sir. And it's over to Dr. Nitin Verma, sir. Sir, it's over to you, sir. Namaste.
Namaskaram and namaste to everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Basavaraj, for a very, very warm and very kind introduction. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It is my privilege. It is my pleasure indeed to be associated with this event and to be, associated with this with your organization for this activity. I will because we have actually, we have to make up a little bit on time. So I will cut short on a few of my personal things, and I'm going to straight away go into the topic so that we can actually get into a discussion also if possible. And I will start sharing my slides now. I hope this is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your slide is visible to everyone, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Please keep on providing me any feedback. If you have any questions or anything, we should have some time at the end of the presentation. But if you would like to ask me something, if there's something really, pressing in your mind and you want to ask me, please feel free to do so. Okay. So,
Sure.
yeah, thank you. So this is where we are. This is the event today, and I'm really happy that the JNN College of Engineering Shimoga is doing this. We have to thank the Atal Academy for giving us this opportunity. So my topic is creating blue oceans, and as we all know, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is very central to the environment that we are in today. Not only because of Corona, but because the economic realities of the world have changed a lot in the last 1 year or so. I mean, if you look back 1 year, no one could have ever thought of all the things that we are thinking today. And this is partly why this is such a beautiful topic to discuss in today's environment. My professed goal is to, this is on my LinkedIn also. It says sculpting 100 CEOs. So I run a campaign, and I'm in the process of a startup where we're trying to help create 100 CEOs for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And hopefully we will talk more about that another time, because I just want to get into the topic as soon as possible. Um, so what is the one word that comes to your mind for these four sets of sentences? This when you are challenged, or when you have a desire that creeps upon your mind, when you feel there's a call to action to take, when you must deliver your best, you feel like that, when best intent and effort must show. What is one word for that? So because we're not in a very interactive setting right now, but I just wanted to pose these few thoughts, because there is one word for that which is core, and which is central to this entire discussion that I'm going to have today. And that one single word is responsibility. Now, we normally see this word as responsibility, but actually, if you look at this word, it is made up of two parts: response and ability. Do you have the response, and do you have the ability to provide that response? This is what it matters. This is what it boils down to when it comes to taking any initiative, especially in context of what we are going to talk about, creating blue oceans. Okay, so now that we know responsibility is the ability to provide an appropriate response in a given situation, how do we offer a response, or how does my organization offer a response that creates a blue ocean? But what is a blue ocean and what is a red ocean? So I'm going to skip over some of the very basic slides, because I thought I had more time, but now that we have less time, so I'm going to straight away take you to a summary which is right here, and I'm going to give it to you very quickly because I have a lot more to do today in the presentation. So I'm not going to spend time taking each sentence apart and with the animation. Okay, so what is red ocean strategy? All markets that exist currently, these are red oceans. Why are these red oceans? And all the players that are in this market, they are playing in that, they're competing in that red ocean. Now, why is this a red ocean? This is a red ocean because it's a bloody red, ocean where it's like sharks, they hurt each other and the ocean goes red. So the only motto is to beat the competition, to, the demand is kind of given. So the total focus is, okay, this is a total subscriber base. This is the total number of users. How many can I get? Okay. So exploit existing demand. And then there is the make value cost trade-off, so you like, all organizations think, okay, if I'm offering this product to the customer, what will I make out of this, and how will I manage this entire value cost equation? Okay. And then the entire system of firms activities is basically differentiation or low cost. So Apple's strategy, for example, is differentiation, so they don't care about low cost. They care about low cost as long as it doesn't hurt their bottom lines. Of course, all companies do, but this particular part will become clear when we talk about blue ocean. So now let's look at what is blue ocean strategy. Blue ocean is, going farther away from the coastline. Like red oceans are where everyone is out there trying to fish. There are hundreds and thousands of boats, fishermen trying to get the same fish. Okay. Blue ocean is far out, 100 kilometers into the ocean. It's all blue. There is very little competition, but there also is uncharted territory. And along with that, there come a lot of things like risk and uncertainty and all that. So blue ocean strategy says that all organizations should try to create uncontested market space, where the organization can go and actually take charge of the market space. It can make the competition irrelevant. It can create and capture new demand. It can break the value cost trade-off. And we will get into details of all this, but so to just get the point, okay? And then in this, there is differentiation and low cost. So in red ocean strategy, it is differentiation or low cost. In blue ocean strategy, it is differentiation and low cost. And we will come to the point why this is so important. So far from this slide, we gather there are two types of strategies. One is the red ocean, one is the blue ocean. The red ocean is competing in the existing market and trying to take more and more subscribers from a fixed market size. Whereas blue ocean is about creating new uncontested market spaces and growing the market and making the competition irrelevant. And therefore, you're able to create new demand. So I hope this is clear. If you have a question or two, if you're unable to hold it, ask me now. Otherwise, we'll have a question and answer. Okay. So to understand this, I picked up a case study because I'm an applied person. I have a hugely industry background and I like to tell stories and I've heard stories and we all learn a lot more from stories. Ever since we were little kids, we heard stories and we took lessons from those stories. So to make this interesting because of our format of this discussion, because of all these constraints. So this is our story for today. How many of you remember going to a circus? And what do you think a circus does? And how big do you think a circus can get, especially a new one? So we are going to talk about a circus called Cirque du Soleil. It is a French name. This is a Canadian circus, Cirque du Soleil, okay, which basically means Circus of the Sun. Now, this organization has a revenue of nearly $1 billion. And so that's why I said, how big can we imagine a circus to be? And it has 4,900 employees in 50 countries. Now, what is so remarkable about this circus is that in 26 years, ever since this circus was created, it has surpassed 100 plus years of market leaders, Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey. So it has crossed those two leaders who have existed for 100 years in 26 years. So now let's learn more about this. So who founded this circus, by the way? So it's a little important to understand why and how. So I will show you some pictures in the next few slides and you will realize the kind of task it must have been to build up this kind of an organization. So in 1984, one-time accordion player, a stilt walker, and a fire eater. This person, he decided to start the circus along with a group of street performers. And what was the industry attractiveness? Anyone remembers in 1984, were you still going to a circus or something? The TV revolution was already happening in India. VCRs were there. Were you still going to the circus in India? And imagine the US, which was like, decades ahead already. So they already had video games and PlayStations. What was the industry attractiveness for a new circus to start at that time? Practically, it was highly, highly questionable. That's why there's a question mark there, highly question mark. So potential for growth. What was the potential for growth? Most analysts said highly questionable. There is no potential for growth in such a circus. There was so many alternative forms of urban entertainment in North America already. PlayStation was common. People were already playing video games. And what was the biggest audience of this circus? Traditional audience? Children. And they were already busy with the new things, the new gadgets, and so on and so forth. And then animal rights were already being, had become very active. So there were so many questions, and it was a declining industry. So the reason I chose this is because we have a situation. I initially, when I introduced this topic, I showed you the first slide, Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have a situation here. We have declining demand. You read every day in newspapers. Industries are falling. Nobody's buying this. Nobody's buying that. Yes, few sectors are growing, and they will continue to grow because they are core to the human existence. But majority of the industry groups are falling. That's what most reports tell us. So I'm not here to discuss, the economy and economics, but that was just to provide the context. Um, so this case study tells us, what can possibly make things right for someone who wishes to start up in such an environment. And this entire environment, what was the cost of starting their circus, and what was the price they were getting? The cost was very high because animals, they cost a lot. The performers cost a lot. Multiple venues cost a lot, and they were getting very low ticket sales. In fact, they were hardly getting enough tickets sold, so they would sell them for discount and somehow meet their cost. So this was the situation when this company started, and this is actually the CEO. Not the CEO, but this is what the CEO used to do. He used to play an accordion in the circus. And so if we apply Porter's 5 forces framework, which is a very famous framework in strategy. So what is the threat of new entrants there? Most analysts said there is no threat. This is a highly declining industry. Who even is interested in coming into this industry? What was customer bargaining power? Huge. Customers wanted to buy ticket only till the last moment, and they would buy it on a bargain, and they would never, care about, the circus people made all kinds of emotional appeals. Nothing worked. Threat of substitutes, tremendous threat of substitutes, tremendous. And then internal competition, cutthroat within the circus industry, because it was the same set of people who were trained to do the same thing, and they would steal each other's talent and end up paying higher and higher, and then cutting costs and adopting all the competition tricks. This is this tall person you're seeing here. This is the person on stilt. This is again the CEO. This is the kind of things that the CEOs had done in other circuses. So once again, all red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Competition in the industry, red. 2, 3, 4, 5. As I've just discussed, all red. So this was the state of the industry. And then customers, this company said, what should we do? Should we target children? Should we steal our set of users from these other circuses? And then they said, that's not going to work. So they chose to create an entirely new blue ocean. And that is why I chose this for this discussion. They said, we will target a mature audience, and we will target corporates. And were there any competitors? Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, the world's 2 biggest players at that time, were they competitors in that segment? Did they even know? Did they even think? No. There was no competition. So this company, Soleil, it realized no competition was key to survival of circus. They said, we don't want any competition. We are going ahead with a totally crazy idea. If it works, we survive. If it doesn't, it's okay. But we have to make it work. And then they created this new market and they grew it. And what was the industry attractiveness? Even at that time, when they started this, it was still highly questionable. What was the potential for growth? Still highly questionable. And were there still other forms of entertainment? Yes. So I could have again applied the new Porter framework to this, and we would have seen, some reds still. But what was the big difference that they made compared to the other circus companies? They created a blue ocean, a brand new blue ocean, and we'll see more about that. So the first thing about creating a blue ocean is to stop competing. Don't even bother what your competition is doing. Yes, that is what a lot of literature has shown. Now, whatever I'm saying is not just my conviction. This is not my theory. I want everyone here to understand. I have based this entire presentation on a lot of readings that I've done. And these are books and material from Harvard. Some of the links are there, and others, if you can Google, you will find a lot of links. Okay, but so the first thing they found was that stop competing, stop trying to stop competition. Just don't even look at them, what they are doing. Learn from them. That is very important. Learn from their mistakes. Learn from the red ocean. What is defining the red ocean? Red ocean versus blue ocean. Red ocean is competition centric. If you offer this price, I will cut down my price. If you offer this extra feature, I will offer extra plus feature. In blue ocean, it's I care a damn. I'm going to create a new blue ocean. It's my market. I will set the rules. Now, the other thing is to expand existing boundaries, which is a topic which will come out tomorrow, and we'll talk about it separately. And then create new spaces. Create the rules of the game rather than just observing and following competition. And then remember, traditional strategy, again, this is not my this is not my theory. I have read from a number of places, including some sources from Harvard, and they say that all traditional strategy has been focused on competition in truly military style. Okay, you have created a distribution network of 40 shops. I will put 41 shops in front of those 40 shops. Okay, so this is exactly military style. FMCG still does that. I hope everyone knows what is FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, which is like the soap, the shampoo, the biscuits, and all those. These are all fast moving consumer goods. So FMCG still works military style. If you have 100 distributors in this area, I will put 100 too. They said no, don't go traditional strategy. If you want to create a blue ocean, think different. Just ignore them. Take lessons and ignore. And by the way, what I also found from research is that and again, this has also been validated by many other researchers. They say blue oceans have existed all along. If we go back, just 1 year, how many of us were really keen to do this kind of e-learning that we are doing today? Even if we were keen, was everything in place? Did you have this environment, the cultural shift that is required? Was it all happening automatically? No. So blue oceans are created, also along the axis of time. What exists today did not exist 1 year back, did not exist 20 years back, 30 years back, 50 years back. Even the North America Industry Classification Standard was revised and expanded and doubled because that denotes the industry classification. For example, mechanical manufacturing steel pipes, steel tubes, okay, steel sheets, cold sheets, whatever. Okay, so they have expanded in 1997. They've doubled the categories. Why? Because what they found was that the existing classification could not account for the new industries that had come up. So this is the pace of evolution, and this has been happening. So this is not something new. This is not something to be scared of. It will happen even if we don't initiate this. Okay, so this was a study I thought it was very important to share this because it tells us why blue oceans are so important. So out of excuse me, out of 100% of business launches, only 14% were blue oceans. But the revenue impact of those 14% was 38%. And look at the profit impact. They were 61%. Profit impact was 61%. Whereas for traditional business launches, which were up to 86%, the revenue was 62% and the profit was only 39%. So this is how big a difference blue ocean strategy can make. So coming back to this question and why we are in this today, and because this is central to creating blue oceans. For most industries, demand and supply situation is not so good today. The demand is tapered off and the supply has become too much for most industries, at least across the world. And you look at all the major economies and across the continents, and what we find is that there is too much supply. Then technology has taken over and there is tech percolation. So these two combined with learning, awareness, and financial risk taking, this means more and more people are starting up. Although in India it is still less, but all over the world, people have had access to internet for a long time. People had access to lower rates of finance for a longer time. In the US, the rate of interest has been 2.5% or 1.5% for the last decades. Similarly, in China, there is a huge penetration of manufacturing industry. Excuse me. So globalization and then population growth in all countries, almost the population is now maturing. China has highly controlled its population. India is in the process, and almost everywhere else, population is either stabilized or declining, except some parts of Africa. So this is time where your traditional demand, factors that led to traditional demand, they are on the decline. Factors that prevented entry of new suppliers are on the decline because now suppliers are increasing. People are taking courses at home, learning how to make candles, how to make cakes, how to do this, how to do that. And tech is making it very simple for people to bring home a 3D printer and start printing, for example, artificial limbs. So there are 1-man, 2-man, 3-man factories in a lot of countries already, and people are selling on eBay and e-commerce. So all this has radically changed the entire business environment across the world. And India is now gradually warming up. I call it gradually warming up. We haven't really, realized this potential yet. So this is why blue ocean is very important. And this is why, we have to take lessons from all those factors to create blue oceans. Now, what are the hallmarks of blue ocean winners and losers? Does industry matter? Does company matter? So research, I'm citing research here. Research says they don't matter. There are winners across industries. There are winners across companies who have defied all the patterns. So what is it that made the difference? How do you actually create a blue ocean? What is key to creating a blue ocean? Now that we understand, we know what factors are going against, increase in demand. We know what factors are causing an increase in suppliers, and we know how this entire destabilizing is happening. So what has made the difference? It is strategy. So blue ocean strategy has made the difference, and value innovation is key. Now, what is value innovation? So there is innovation and there is value innovation. Now, we have to pay attention to the word value and innovation. So this single, although it is said as value innovation, it comprises two words, value and innovation. So making the competition irrelevant by creating a leap in value. So this is why I have used a bit of colors there. And I really like colors, as you know, and I've always loved colors as a child. But I kind of, uh, tend to draw plain slides. But in this particular part, I like colors. And the reason is, you will see, all these are the parts of this, paragraph. They are very, very important. What is value innovation? Making the competition irrelevant. So that is one part. By creating a leap in value, that is the other part. For who? For buyers and for your company. Thereby opening up new and uncontested market space. Doing what? Opening up new and uncontested market space. Okay, it must be uncontested and new. So this and this only qualifies as value innovation. Now, then what is the difference between innovation and value innovation? So we'll talk about that now. So value without innovation, okay, which means you're trying to create more value, but with, there is no innovation really. So that is incremental. Now someone can debate, how can you produce value without innovation? Of course, there is jugglery and there are things which we call innovation, but they are incremental gains. And some of them can be important for short term, but they will not result in a blue ocean. They haven't, it has been shown through literature that does not create a blue ocean. A blue ocean is very clearly defined by value innovation, for which, we have this entire paragraph guiding us on top. And what is innovation? So let's answer this question. What is innovation versus value innovation? So to understand that, this is the second part we need to understand. Innovation without value. So innovation without value means, we create something crazy, but it does not really have any value. Okay. It doesn't really sell. Nobody is kind of, willing to put their money on it. That is innovation without value. So for winners, how do these make a difference? Leading edge technology and timing for market entry. Because traditionally, it has been said that, oh, you must have the latest technology to win in the market. And your timing must be perfect for the market entry. Oh, that was bad timing. Well, you know what? Blue ocean strategy, the people who have studied this subject, and when I have gone through this, and this again comes from Harvard University Press, they say these two don't make a difference to the winners. Bleeding edge, whether you have bleeding edge technology or not, whether your timing was right or not. If you have the right strategy, remember the word strategy here, strategy. And if you have the spirit of value innovation, which is defined here in this paragraph, then having the best cutting edge technology does not make a difference. Um, you know, Timing yourself in such a way that, oh, this is the perfect time for the market entry, even that does not make a difference. What makes a difference is solely value innovation. Now, innovation can be done and value innovation can be done, but there is also something called successful value innovation. Successful value innovation is when the company or the organization or the person who has actually done the value innovation is able to take the fruit of that value innovation. They get rewarded for that. And that is what usually is the most spectacular failure of market pioneers and tech innovators. I'm sure most of us remember MySpace, or you remember Orkut. And do you remember Yahoo? I mean, Yahoo's still there, right? But look at all these Sun Microsystems. I don't know how many of you have heard of Sun Microsystems. I have worked for some of these organizations in the US. Sun Microsystems was my client, and Yahoo was kind of next door in Sunnyvale, California. And so what is the biggest, most spectacular failure of market pioneers and tech innovators? When they have the right ingredients, when they have the value innovation, but they are unable to create the proper strategy to to get the benefits out of it. And instead, who gains? The people who come in later, who learn the lessons and who do better. Who did better? Gmail. Who did better? WhatsApp. Who did better? Facebook. Okay. All these people, all these organizations, all these entities, they did better than all those people who actually created the internet foundation. So there is something called successful innovation. So now let's, so I have woven this with the case because I didn't want to make it theory heavy or case heavy, and I've kind of balanced it. So now back to the case. Okay. Uh, so how did this circus, how did they create value innovation? So this is going to be amazing now. Okay. This is beyond, uh, what we can think. I'm sure all of us will agree after this. So they created an entirely new experience. They said a circus is a circus with clowns and animals and people and multiple venues and some boring music, and some copied film music and something else. Okay. So what they did was they said, no, circus will have a story. Circus will have intellect. Circus will be sophisticated. It will not have cheap, dirty humor. Okay. It will not have clowns who crack silly jokes. It will have the, the sensitivity of a ballet, very beautiful dance forms. It will have original music and some assorted music, which is their own music and then, played back in combinations. And then they created this entire new experience where now, there are people who go to watch a particular theme. Okay. So the theme is, and I'll actually show some of those later. So I don't want to talk about those now. But they said that people who come to watch us, they should come to watch us next week again because there's a new theme. How many times can you go and watch a lion run through a ring of fire, right? So once, twice, but then what if there is a different story? There's a different performance. There's a different art every time. So they created new demand altogether. They were the same people. So traditionally, circus had a market where if I had watched the circus twice, thrice, I would be like, okay, I watched the circus twice and I grew up and I'm done with it. But now this is not just that circus. This is like, okay, I watched this and there was this story of this thing and that thing. And now this week there's this story of that and that. And next month they have this story of that and that. So this is an entirely new experience. So I hope you can see how they created this innovation, this new blue ocean. And then you will hear the lion roar in their circus. But guess what? So we will talk about those factors later also. But I just want to highlight now, there are no animals. Can you imagine a circus without animals? There are no animals. They said animals. Remember, I highlighted in the beginning slide, animal rights and costs. So no animals. But what they've done is beautiful. Again, we will go through that in a little while. And why have multiple ring avenues? Because you have so many artists, there are 50 artists in one avenue, there's another 50, and people are looking like, okay, now it's the right ring, now it's the center ring, now it's the left ring, and then people are like, what are they doing to us, and you just keep switching. I'm sure, if you ever, watched tennis, closely, I mean, you know what happens to your neck, you're like, okay, left, right, left, right. So it's not a very great experience. So they said, cut it down. And what did they also cut down with that? Cost. Because now they had one avenue, one big avenue performing whatever was to be done. And they had a set finite number of artists, the best, the well-trained ones doing the acts, and after one by one. Okay. And there were no one for all shows. It wasn't like, okay, this is one show. Oh, children are like, oh, what is this kind of show? No, this is a show, where today there is a different kind of audience can go to. Next time there's a different kind of audience can come to that show, and so on and so forth. So they created those kind of shows. Now imagine the kind of effort they have put in. And the intelligence this person is shown, who used to just play an accordion and was a stilt walker. I mean, what is his, honestly, what is his qualification? I think it goes beyond, academics and description. So really hats off to, this spirit of this person in creating a blue ocean along with the team, right? Um, and then the very premium, sophisticated, intellectual storytelling entertainment, where people come out and they remember something and they really like it, they emote with it, they laugh. So there's a range of emotions that this circus brings. So this is the new, value innovation they did. And what was the price? What was the price they could charge for this? They charged a premium for this because they said, hey, listen, we are giving you something very special. That's the circus you want to go to. You want to watch the lion again and again, go watch it. But we have something else. So they were able to charge a higher price. And, so they were able to build on profits, cut down costs. And that is where, value innovation is very important. So to understand this further, we look at this slide. So on top, you will basically see there are two triangles. On top is an inverted triangle of costs. At the bottom is an inverted triangle of buyer value. And at the intersection is value innovation. So if there is a desire to create a blue ocean, must cut down costs and increase perceived value, buyer value or perceived value must increase. Somewhere in the center, you know, this is the point of intersection where value innovation lies. So value innovation is created in the region where a company's actions favorably affect both its cost structure and its value proposition. Cost savings are made by eliminating and reducing the factors an industry competes on. Okay. So when you reduce those factors on which you're competing, so obviously, I don't want 100 distributors, then I reduce the cost. Buyer value is lifted by raising and creating elements that industry has never offered. I'm offering, you know, something which nobody else is offering. Original music, storyline, intellectual entertainment. Okay. So as costs go down over time due to economies of scale kicking in, and as high sales volume goes up, the value generated is much higher. Now, this value, incidentally, is higher both for the company as well as for the buyer. Okay, so as I promised, now is the time for some examples, of how and what this company, what this circus did. Now, how many of us can imagine that a circus would go on and produce an animated show, TV show? So this is what they do. See, they are not stopping there. They are expanding along with the time. So today is the time of animations, right? I mean, kids grow up watching everything. So somewhere around 2016, they already premiered Luna Petunia. So this is a Canadian American animated television series. And what is this about? Again, this is about a story, adventures of a little girl, Luna Petunia, who plays in a dreamland where she learns how to make the impossible possible. Next, this this is another one. Beautiful examples of creating blue oceans. So I think everybody has watched Harry Potter, or I mean, I know when I say everybody, I'm not being presumptive. I mean, there is no intent there, but when I say that, I'm saying, everybody has heard about it, or at least those people who have little kids or who are probably still very young. Somewhere your life has been touched by, or you have come across Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter goes to this Hogwarts, school, where they teach, all the tricks, the magic tricks and everything. So we have seen that. But imagine having a TV serial, imagine having a TV show, it's called Big Top Academy. And there, it's all about circus tricks, secrets, magic powers. So they created this TV show called Big Top Academy. Again, this premiered on TV in 2018. Again, Blue Ocean, you know. So marvelous strategy by this company, marvelous. Uh, and then this is Color Me. Now this is just amazing, and I'm going to play this video. I've already kept it ready, um, so that everyone will see, what this is. Please just give me a second so that I can switch my tab. Again, this is marvelous. What they have done, the kind of engagement, audience engagement, the kind of pursuit of Blue Ocean is just mind blowing.
Hi everybody, my name is Kyle Craigle and I'm an artist at Cirque du Soleil. Now, if this is your first time here, I just want to take this time to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a series where we recreate some of my favorite Cirque du Soleil makeup looks weekly in a tutorial style so that you guys can follow along and transform just as quickly and just as flawlessly, if you will, as I do. Tutorial started! I'm excited. I'm going to take a small cat tongue definer brush. I'm going to grab a white...
So I will, speak in between because I don't want to take all the time, showing you this video. But what this person is doing is actually showing you a frog makeup. Now, what is this frog? This totem frog, this is a character in a particular episode at Cirque du Soleil, at this circus. And it happened that, a lot of people liked the way this frog had been, made up. And, so they realized that, remember I just said that they didn't have animals. So what they've done is they've created fabulous, they have a huge, fabulous team of artists, and they paint and they create, animals, flowers, birds, and things like that out of people, and just amazing. So I will just play this quickly. This is on high speed. So I will take
this later. So just make sure that the outside edge above the eyebrow. Since the shape is completed above the line of the eyebrow, we're actually gonna have to go in with some more product and make sure that...
Now the idea is that, they are engaging the audience. This is on YouTube, and it has followers and likes and things like that. And there are people who want to know how to become like this. So
this mountain is pretty round.
This is all again a beautiful
line that splits
strategy.
In with the green shadow.
Of course,
Using the same
I'm
green
not
shadow that I
asking
used on face
anyone
earlier.
to come with this makeup in a call with me, video call with me next time. Okay, I was just kidding.
Into a medium-sized brush and
मेरे बेटे जोरावर के खून में ही टेक्नोलॉजी है। आज के टाइम का बच्चा अभी से ही
Okay,
कोडिंग
we have to
सीख रहा
put
है।
up
अब
with
आप
this.
बोलोगे
just buff out that green shade.
Okay, so
Green reflect. Okay, guys, we're almost done. This is actually
this is
Then-
not just one, by the way. This is not just the only character they have. They have so many other makeup tutorials, and they have this entire series called Color Me. Then they didn't even stop there. So this is a company which is continuously breaking, through generations. I mean, imagine somebody, who created this company in 1984, and then, of course, there have been changes in between, and the spirit of the management and things like that. But look at the evolution of this organization. And what I'm going to show you next will even surprise you more, because they even have gone into virtual reality. Now imagine a circus getting into virtual reality. And now, I would like to quickly take you through that video as well, just to, show you what kind of things they're doing. Please bear with me while I take a brief pause to change my presentation tab. Okay, so as I said, the drama. Okay, as I said, they don't have animals, but you can see that they've done such marvelous work with art that people are amazed. I mean, if you were in such a live show and given that this is affordable, uh, people would go every other week, to watch a new theme, to watch a new, something else, and they don't repeat things. As I said, there's like nothing like one for all shows. There's nothing like that. Very beautiful. Okay. All right. Please bear with me while I come back to my main presentation. So I hope you saw how this company has been marvelously, this is why I chose this case study, because it explains so well how an organization like Circus, Circus can evolve and become something else. I mean, how many of us, can even start to think, but look at these people. I mean, yes, it is their business, but how many, how many businesses evolve like this? So this is a wonderful learning. And as I said in the beginning, now I think I want to go back to that slide and quickly put back those three questions. So now look at these three questions and help me understand. When did anyone last watch a circus? I mean, would you like to go back to a circus? And what does a circus do? So we all had this perception in our mind. What does a circus do? And I've shown you so much different, that a circus is doing already, and it's making a ton of money. And how big can a new circus get? 26 years versus the other circuses which are 100 plus years older. Okay, so this is why I put these questions in the beginning, and I like to review them at the end, because they're very important. And as we have discussed, how you create blue ocean, what is key to blue ocean is ignore your competition, stop trying to stop competition, care a damn about competition, take lessons, move on, create new spaces, right? um, Write new rules of the game, be the king or the queen of your territory, and don't strategy is not military. Think innovative, so now car companies, I forget the name of the company. Tesla has already been doing it, and there are some other in India as well. They are planning to sell entirely online. So there will be some exclusive models which will be sold only online. So what distributors, what military style, one-to-one man marking like football or hockey, or some other sport, no more. It's you think different. Okay. And as I said, value innovation is very, very important. Strategy made the difference. Neither bleeding edge technology made the difference, nor timing for market entry made the difference. What was most critical is that the value innovation was executed successfully, and we have a session on that. That is why I am not going to this topic much here, because I believe my colleague will be taking up a session on this in detail on execution of the strategy. And okay, and then so we talked about how this circus has actually created value innovation. So we talked about all the factors, um, and where value innovation lies between cost and buyer value or perceived value, and how it creates value for not only the buyer but also for the organization, and the value increases with the economies of scale. Then I talked about these, really very innovating initiatives. And if you would like to watch more, you can go here. This is once again to capture what is red ocean versus blue ocean. So now that we have, looked at a case study, this is the slide. If you remember, we started in the beginning with, I introduced this very quickly. In fact, I made this change after I saw all those, inaugural AICT things taking a lot of time. I decided to put up this slide back in the front and skip out, some of the, instead of explaining all of these sentences one at a time, I put this together. Okay. So, but now back again, um, we understand red ocean strategy is about competing in the existing market space, thinking about, okay, so this company has so many customers and that company has so many customers and this one has so many. How many can I get out of this market? If you're thinking like that, that is red ocean strategy. So this is the test of your thinking. So how do you tell whether you're thinking blue ocean or red ocean? If you're thinking, listen, they are all doing this, this is the market they have, these are the problems that are not solved, this is where some more value can be created, this is where I can reduce the unnecessary costs, then perhaps you're thinking blue ocean. Okay. So when you're thinking about beating the competition, मैं ऐसा कर दूंगा, I will do this so that this will happen to that person. This is what will happen to that organization. Well, then you're thinking red ocean. If you're thinking it does not matter what they do, I know my game, I will do this, and this is how I will take my customers through the value curve, you're thinking blue ocean. And the differentiation versus low cost. If there is differentiation and low cost, that is blue ocean. If there is differentiation or low cost as a strategy, that is red ocean. Okay. And I've already talked about demand and value cost. We have gone in detail about the value innovation. So with this, I would like to come to my last slide. And I really hope many of you would have heard this story. This is a story which I heard when I was doing my MBA, and even before that, there was a marketing professor, and somewhere somehow I exactly don't remember, but there was somebody so it's not my own thing and I must acknowledge just that. So the story says that there was once upon a time there was a village where people would go and try to sell things, and a lot of salesmen went there and they came back and said, oh, this village is so poor, they don't even have this, they don't even have that. So the one salesperson came back and said, oh, they don't even they don't even have footwear, they don't even have sandals, they just roam around without anything in their feet, they're so poor, this is totally useless place to go. And this person had this database, so he put this in that this village in that database and put a big red um, cross in front of that and said, uh, to all of the salespeople, whoever reads this data, don't go there, this is a useless place. So for many years that village it just remained like that, people stopped going there. And then one day one genius, well, we call genius because we this is all like in hindsight, and this is based on a true story, somebody told me, whoever gave the story to me. And this genius, so he read that and he said, listen, nobody is going there and everybody wants to go to Nagpur, Sholapur, Bangalore, Bidur, this place, that place, because it sells, it sells, it sells, it sells. Okay. But what is this big red box? Okay. It says, don't go there. It's useless. They don't even have chappals. They don't even have sandals. Okay. So then this person went there. He went around. He said, wow, they don't even have chappals. So this means they need chappals. This means they need sandals. Okay. Oh, they also need hair oil. They also need shampoo. So this is what, this is a, a little, I would call it an Indian tale of blue ocean, which I studied almost like, I believe more than 20, 25 years back. And I've always kept it very close to my heart. because I work in innovation, and as I said before, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on my personal things, but I try to spend a lot of time on innovation and try to encourage students and faculty and industry people to come together. We're trying to create that forum. Um, yeah. Okay. That's it. And I tried my best to cover up for everyone else, so that we kind of stick to the schedule and people will be able to have a nice lunch. It's about 1:20 now, and I hope you have picked up, what is a blue ocean, and through this case study, you would have picked up enough basics about creating a blue ocean through value innovation, and by focusing on what is very important, uh, which is to forget about competition after taking the lessons and to think, you know, how you can cut down costs and unnecessary bells and whistles, and offer enhanced value to the customer, so that at that intersection you will be able to find value innovation for your organization or for your startup, or for your own self, for your own activities. uh, okay, that is all from my side for now. um, I'm I did keep some time for questions, and that is why I eliminated some of the basic slides after I saw before. So we can I'm open to taking a few questions very quickly. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Please,
hi.
audience.
I'm
For
Dr.
questions.
Purvi Pujari from Bharati Vidyapeeth. And my
Yes, Dr.
question to Dr. Nitin, but before we go ahead, wonderful session, sir. Um, is there any way in which company can identify where they can put the blue ocean strategy? So, is there any tips there?
Yes,
Like,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes. Actually, we have certain online analytical tools which will help identify where the blue ocean might possibly lie. So, in my session tomorrow, I will be talking about challenges in going beyond the existing boundaries, and we will be talking about that. So
okay,
please be with us.
sure,
And
sure.
the tools, I believe, my colleague is going to take, over that session, and you should get I'm confident you will be able to get a very fair idea of the tools that are there is a set of tools, so it should be able to help you with your question. It
Sure.
definitely
Thank you, sir.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. I saw a question.
Sir, there is another question from
Yes.
Amit Kulkarni,
Uh-huh.
who was asked in the chat box. What is the blue ocean strategy for telecom sectors?
Yes, yes. So again, blue ocean. See, actually, if you if we apply this blue ocean thinking, right, and the story that I mentioned in the end, honestly, if you ask me, it is a geo story. It's like, oh, how will people ever be able to afford, a 4G connection at this price in India, right? And I mean, this is not about politics and the other things here, but whatever they did, so this is a blue ocean strategy that they have been able to implement. Again, I'm not going to discuss how they did, and the mechanics and what goes behind, but effectively, um, Geo has shown the way forward in creating a blue ocean of the highest um, data consumption almost in the world by by a single country. India is almost there, and the other thing is, they have building up a huge ecosystem. There's Geo Savan, Geo this, Geo that, Geo Retail. I actually follow stocks, and I do some financial analytics also, because that is within the purview of my area. So they are doing a lot of things, and Bharti, because the question is about telecom, so I must talk about the at least the 3-4 key players. So Bharti, for example, is trying to now respond by saying, okay, we will also go into 5G. But because Geo has already pulled in so much traction, and Amazon and Facebook have already gone, the biggies of the world have aligned with Geo for their, blue ocean strategy. So Bharti is finding it difficult, but because of their big size and their money, in the bank, they will be able to tide through. Vodafone, we know, is quite challenged right now, but Vodafone and Idea, they have rebranded themselves, which gives us some idea that they have some cards to play. Rebranding, and then normally, I mean, rebranding can result into outcomes. So whenever I look at branding and marketing, and I've been involved in some interesting things. So whenever there is a rebranding, there are two things which can happen. One is that the company really comes out with the blue ocean strategy, where they will perhaps combine, something with sports or something else or something else, and so then they will be able to capture more subscribers. Or sometimes, we have also seen that rebranding is just rebranding, and it does not have a huge blue ocean angle to it, but it just brings incremental value. So in that case, the growth of the company uh, is not going to be that fast, and its recovery is not going to be that fast. BSNL is the fourth player, but then BSNL, uh, we should not be actually comparing. So because BSNL's mandate is something else, it's a government organization, and their mandate is not in not exactly in line with the competition or with something else. I mean, they have become more like infrastructure creators. And again, so I mean, we are not going to get into the politics or the economics or what goes behind. So this is my review of the telecom space. Now coming to this question by Sri Ranjan, Byju's, yes, absolutely, is an excellent example of uh, of a blue ocean, because okay, so see, there is there is blue ocean because they have created their own ground rules. Now there is nobody else. I mean, if you think of somebody in this space, okay, Oyo was similar. When they created your own room, and Swiggy, Swiggy, well, Swiggy, because there are other food delivery services. I mean, yes, this is something new, but there are other products. Of course, in every segment there are other products, and so there are competitors. But Byju's and OU, I definitely consider as very valid examples of blue ocean. Where people never thought. Um, Khan Academy, yes, non-profits can also come into. Um, so Sri Ranjan, I hopefully I have answered your question, and I'm now going to move on to Ranjita's question, which is even Khan Academy. So Khan Academy again, which is it is a very good social kind of initiative, and even social initiatives can come under blue ocean strategy. The idea is that whatever you are doing, this is not an existing market. Remember, the fundamental difference between a blue ocean and a red ocean is the first question to ask is there an existing market, with the competitors and all that? Are you thinking within those boundaries? So, or are you thinking, okay, these are people who are doing this, but they are not offering this, they're not doing this, and there are people who want this, who need this. Can I serve them in this way? Right? So if you can carve out an idea or a concept or an organization or a service or a product which caters to this something new which is not being served by anyone else, So that becomes a blue ocean strategy. Okay. Um, Ranjita, I hope I have answered your question.
Okay, sir. So if you have any question, audience,
And
please,
Amit,
we may take one
yes.
or more question.
Hmm?
Otherwise, if you don't have any question, we shall wind up today's session. Okay. Uh, Sir, uh, Nitin Verma, sir. So your
Yes.
session was wonderful, and we could able to understand what is the difference between blue ocean strategy and red ocean strategy. So when you took the example of Sarkari Sulais, that was best for understanding what is the blue ocean strategy. And we thank you for having such a wonderful session and sharing with us. So we look forward more on tomorrow's session by you. For the time being, we will have a lunch break, and for the participants, we will join sharply at 2:30 for our afternoon session. So I thank Dr. Nitin Verma for delivering and sharing his knowledge on overview of blue ocean strategy. So on the behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, I thank you wholeheartedly for your wonderful session, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
But for information to the participant is there is a feedback link which is provided in the Google Doc forms. Please fill that as your attendance. So we will once again join in the afternoon session at 2:30 p.m. sharply. Thank you one and all. So we will join with the same Google link, or the Google Meet link.